Welcome back to Java programming. It's time to write some real code now for that kennel application that we've been working with. So the real code, we've already got outlined the instructions, what we need to write for our prep code. Think of those as the instructions we've been giving you. And so it's time to write the real classes. I'm going to follow that test-driven development process though as I do this. And so what that means is that I'm only going to write enough code to get my test to pass. And once that test is passing, then you can imagine coming back in, writing more tests, and then writing the rest of the code until it's big enough that it meets all of the requirements and all of the tests pass. So one note, at this point in the game, we're going to start writing this as Java code, but you really could take what we've done so far, with the exception of the test code, and write this in any language. So this, again, is not Java specific. So the steps should be relatively easy because we've already figured out all of the logic, all of the variables. It's now just a matter of kind of using our blueprint to write the program. So let's go ahead and head into Atom. And I'm going to create a new file. And this is going to be my dog class. So it represents a dog in their kennel application. We'll go ahead and put in author information, close that up, and write our class. So public class dog. And I know that I need that much, so I'm going to save that. And that is going to go into my demos folder in project 3. That's dog.java. All right, so I've written a little bit of code. Let's go ahead and compile. So remember that we had a compiler error here before. Let's see what happens when I compile now everything in demos. My error messages have changed a bit. So you'll notice that I don't have any compiler errors for dog. So I've not done enough here yet to screw up. But in my dog test, I now have cannot find symbol. So what does that mean? Well, here, line 15 of dog test, we have some code, small dog.setWeight. Well, of course we can't find the setWeight method. I haven't written it yet. So this compiler error is kind of guiding me as to what I need to do next in order to get my tests to pass. And maybe my first test that I have to get to pass is the thing has to compile. So I'm going to use this to drive out what I should do next in my program. So if I want to have a setWeight method, I'm going to need to have an instance variable for weight. So here we will have private string weight. And I'm not going to assign a value there. It will default to the lowest values, which is 0. So I can save that. And I'm going to go ahead and write my setter as well. Set the dog's weight. And my parameter that I pass in will be called new weight. And we'll say that's in pounds. Close that up and let's write the method. So the return type for a setter is void. The naming convention, set weight. It is going to be not a string. I apologize there. That should be an int. We'll use whole numbers here, I think, in this case. And I think that's what I defined in the prep code as well. Let's just pop back there and take a look at our prep code for the kennel. Yeah, so an int variable to hold the weight of the dog in pounds. So apologize about that. So make sure you've changed yours also to int. And here the type coming in is an int, and we will call that new weight. And then let's just finish up the setter. So weight instance variable equals new weight, the local variable that was passed in. So that's set. We've written a chunk of code. Let's compile. All right, things are looking better. We're down to one error at this point. Cannot find symbol, calculate food needed. Well, yeah, we haven't written that method yet. So this, again, the compiler's kind of guiding us through what to do next. It's kind of nice because sometimes when we sit down to write an application, there's a lot of things to do, and that can feel a little bit overwhelming. So I'm just writing enough to get through the compiler error that's hopefully I can actually run my tests. So let's write that calculate food needed method. And we'll consult our prep code. What were our instructions? How do we decide this was going to work? Well, calculate food needed is going to return an int, and it doesn't accept any parameters. So let's go ahead and bring that over here, and we'll create our method. Determine the food needed for a single day for the dog based on weight. And I could add the details here of what that is going to look like exactly, but I think it's simple enough that I probably don't need to specify it here. Any parameters? No, but I do have a return, and that is the amount of food needed. And technically, people, when they're writing Javadoc, tend not to include the before the details there. So I'm going to just pull that off. Let's close up that comment and write the method. So public int is what's returned. Calculate food needed. No parameters. Everything we need is already in this class, which is the weight. And then we can start now writing our code. If we consult our notes here, if the dog weighs less than 50 pounds, return 1, else return 2, and that's the end of it. So if weight is less than 50, we're going to return 1 as in 1 unit of food, else return 2 units of food, and that's it. So even though we sort of had an end if in there, indicating in the prep code where the end of this was, there is no end if in Java, right? It's just the curly brace, so we don't have to worry about doing that. So I am missing some semicolons here. There we go. All right, I think we're ready to compile, and hopefully our calculate food needed error goes away, and it did, and now we can actually run that test. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll change our compile to run. And this is our test dog class. Oops, I think I named it dog test actually. Not with a capital E. There we go. Small dog food calculation success. So you can see here, again, I'm not outputting any numbers that I need to visually check or think about, okay, what should I be seeing? All I'm looking for are success messages. So you can imagine then it would be time to continue testing our dog and repeat this chunk for a dog that's 50 pounds and a dog that is greater than 50 pounds. And then we've got a pretty thorough test for the dog food calculation. From there then, once I've got all those tests passing, then I can continue building out the dog class, adding in the owner information, the dog's name, and a display method. Then I could move on to the kennel application or kennel class and do sort of the same thing. Okay. I hope this is helpful. You now have everything you need to complete 2 additional labs, and I didn't mention the test code lab because I kind of wanted to introduce both of these concepts together because they work pretty well together. So there is a lab for test code and a lab for the real code. So whichever classes you wrote prep code for, now think about the method in one of those classes that really should be tested. So if we go back to that first lab, you want to think about where the main logic is happening. So if you did the calculator application, you want to make sure that the method that you have to calculate the sum, the difference, the product, or the quotient, make sure that those are really working. So those would be 4 methods to test. If you did the guessing game, you would want to make sure that the random number that's generated is between 1 and 100. And you would want to make sure that the guessed number whether it correctly responds that the number is too big or too small from the target. So the random number that's generated, consider that the target, and then the guessed number, what kind of message are you going to give the user back? So that would really just be a string that you could check. And then the third application, the meat of that is determining the quote. So if you pass in red to the method, do you get back the correct quote that you expect? Okay. So that's all you would need to build out. The unit tests and the real code for these should not require any input from the user. So it shouldn't really be using input helper and prompting the user for any information. This should all run directly at the command line, just like we did with the dog. So don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. We're looking for kind of a bare minimum here, just write enough code to get your tests to pass. All right, reach out with questions on Slack. I'm looking forward to seeing your test code and real code for your chosen application. We'll see you next time.